All right, Last Dance is coming up in a couple minutes, episodes 3 and 4. I'm going to do a recap tomorrow as well, but I'm very excited for this. Obviously, it's going to go into a little more of Pippen and Rodman, which would be cool. Dennis Rodman's a very interesting player, obviously, not just for his personal characteristics and all that stuff, but, looked at his numbers. Dude averaged like 18 rebounds a game in a year, multiple years, over 15 boards a game, which is just impressive. And obviously, from the film, he looks very, very limited offensively. So, really bought into that role. That's cool. Obviously, basketball fans can either love or hate a player like that if he's on your team. Sometimes it's frustrating. I think a guy like Reggie Evans, who no disrespect to Dennis Rodman, but like that sort of comparison where they play really hard. Not as talented offensively, but they do the job. And obviously, Rodman was more than a rebounder. He was an incredible defender. His effort seems to be off the charts. And that's what's amazing. That's the Draymond Green, sort of prototype that we've seen, in our era. But Draymond, even though he's not great at offense, is definitely a better offensive player. Does more than Rodman. But either way, it's pretty cool to see their value. To me, Scottie Pippen is a stud. Obviously, he's a guy that I think could play and fit in with this era. And the reason why I say that he's so long, smooth, very good player. Kind of reminds me of like a current day Danny Granger in a way, before he got hurt, obviously. I am somebody that does believe that basketball does get better as time goes on, just based on evolution, people getting bigger, stronger, faster, more people, working on their game. So I'm not going to sit here and act like they're the same era. I don't think they are. With that being said, I still believe Jordan is the GOAT right now. So we'll see. LeBron, I hope they give him this season, obviously, as long as everything works out health and safety wise. But it would be really cool to see LeBron chase this one. You could tell he's definitely, locked in as he always is. But this year seems to be his best chance that he's had in a while. So hoping to get that. Last part of this is the Eagles. So they had a interesting draft, obviously, over the past couple days. I like Rieger. I don't love him, but I do think he adds that explosive factor. I saw a good tweet. Somebody tweeted, I follow a lot of people on Twitter that are Eagles fans, and was saying that they're really, the front office kind of just targets a prototype or a specific skill set, like, Rieger, Deshaun Jackson. Or get a guy that's a big possession receiver like Alshon. It seems like they try to fit, description sometimes. That's what they did with Ortega Whiteside, comparing him to Alshon. And, who knows how it'll play out. I mean, Ortega Whiteside obviously had a terrible year last year, but if he can be a fourth receiver, someone in that, Jason Avant mold, I think of, Ortega Whiteside, this kind of just hit me, but he's never going to be fast. He's not fast. But, Avant, he was frustrating as well sometimes in terms of getting open, creating separation, but you really, knew his role was on third downs. A little bit different with this system because obviously, Ertz and Goddard are going to get so much playing time because they are better players than Ortega Whiteside. But, in situations where, maybe Ortega Whiteside can develop into a 3rd and 4 type of guy that is really, okay, and is able to create enough separation off of a linebacker in the slot or a corner in the slot and kind of use his body as Avant did. Ortega Whiteside has a lot to live up to in terms of hands. When you talk about Jason Avant, that dude, for as little separation as he created, if the ball was near him, he was catching it, and he was competitive. So maybe Ortega Whiteside can develop into that role. Either way, as our offense is, constructed, you have Ertz and Goddard, who are tremendous talents, but they're not going to stretch the field. So Rieger is interesting. The other thing is, they could draft a receiver next year. They could sign a receiver. They could trade for a receiver. When I look at their current roster, they are, in my mind, definitely still banking on this Deshaun Alshon combination that it could work. And I'm not seriously opposed to that. It's just the odds of them staying healthy the entire year, it's just not going to happen. Honestly, ideally, they both get, banged up, just realistically at some point during the season, but they're healthy on that last stretch run. Obviously, Alshon has incredible playoff performances, and I've always thought that Alshon if Nick Foles would remain the quarterback, I'm not saying I think he should be the quarterback, but Nick Foles and Alshon Jeffrey had a tremendous connection, and it was something in the same, breath as a Eli and Plaxico Burress connection, I thought, where he just really trusted Jeffrey to throw the ball up there and get it. And that's really what he's best at. Wentz, to me, again, not to be critical of Wentz, I think we do have to believe in him and let him grow. But he does seem to stare down receivers, especially Ertz, as he should in a way. But it doesn't seem like he has much confidence in Jeffrey for whatever reason, whereas Foles, really just trusted Jeffrey in a lot of situations, back shoulder throws, really a lot of times in crunch time situations, throws over the middle. And Alshon's clearly not the same athlete that he used to be, but if you got Deshaun hypothetically running down the field 1,000 miles an hour and Rieger and everybody else we drafted, you could clear up some space in the middle. That leads me to my last point. To me, the draft, overall, obviously I'm not happy with the Hurts pick. 10 years from now, who knows? Maybe Hurts is the next Donovan McNabb, and we all love him. You really don't know. Wentz clearly has had injury issues, but when you look at the timing of it, the second round, a lot of people have doubts about Hurts as a quarterback in general. I think the comparison to Lamar Miller is ridiculous. Lamar Miller is a guy at Louisville who I never understood those, he should be changed to a receiver. And part of that is, who knows? We're not going to go into that. But the dude play at Louisville. He was a very good, very smooth passer. Now, obviously, he had some overthrows. Obviously, he had some issues with the accuracy at times. But that dude was in the pocket, dropping back. And, he really was a dangerous athlete, not just running. He was a better thrower than Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts did have a very good season in Oklahoma. But as someone who follows Oklahoma a little bit, I do know that it's a quarterback factory. It's a great place to play. I think Oklahoma is kind of similar to Ohio State, where they clearly have better athletes on the field in their conference, especially looking at teams like Kansas. TCU is terrible this year. Iowa State. Those receivers at Oklahoma are better than the defensive backs they're playing against, just like Ohio State's better than Wisconsin's defensive backs. And a lot of times what happens is you get a sort of Patrick Mahomes sort of offense that the Chiefs had this year, where you're really just, as long as you make the right read and a good throw, you got receivers who are picking up tremendous yards after the catch. CeeDee Lamb, all Eagles fans are disappointed right now. You watch Jalen Hurts highlights and it makes you realize how good CeeDee Lamb is. Jalen Hurts is a guy that throws the ball up into coverage at times. He makes receivers go make the plays. Obviously, I don't think we have the best receiver sets for that at the moment. But that's just kind of a knack on him overall. It's his throwing. He does hold the ball a lot. So there's things about him that concern you as a quarterback. And obviously, he might not have been there in the third round, might not have been there in the fourth round, but I don't know. I feel like, that caliber of quarterback will be around, in a year, next year. I think that caliber will be around. Someone who's athletic like Hurts is, but has some issues throwing the ball. The dude at Alabama, you talk about the cog in the engine, it was him. He was the only one that kind of hurt them negatively, at least, outside looking in. So, the pick doesn't make sense. Obviously, they could have used another playmaker. I think, corner's a position that they just didn't address. And then I think their day three is kind of like, all right, we heard your complaints. We'll throw you some receivers and linebackers, but, they're in the 3rd to 7th round for a reason. So, and we all get excited watching highlight tapes now, but look at the numbers. Obviously, later round players do make impacts, but probability-wise, there's a lesser chance. And there's better prospects, higher in the draft. So the one guy I'm intrigued about is the linebacker from Colorado. His name's slipping my head right now. Bad fan for that, but he's interesting. He's an athlete, definitely too small to be a linebacker, and I'm not a fan of the fact that Eagles just think they could play small linebackers, but that guy does seem like a player that can make some impact and nickel in certain situations just based on his athleticism and how hard he plays. Very fast, athletic. I could see him being a guy that develops into a good pass rusher or QB spy or something like that where he can provide some value. I don't think he's a starting linebacker this year or next year, though, so we shall see. Hope you enjoy The Last Dance. Signing off.